How did you become the director of the Resilience Unit at the Israel Center for the Treatment of Psychotrauma?
Well, actually, it's quite an interesting story, I think. I was a fellow at the Mandel School in Jerusalem, and that is after being a school psychologist for about 20 years. I had the opportunity to study for 2 years, and as fate would have it, I began to study right at the beginning of the Intifada. I began my fellowship on September 1st, 2000, and the Intifada, what we now call the Second Intifada, started on September 9th, 2000. And for the 2 years that I was involved in this fellowship, there were really very difficult times, both in Jerusalem and where I lived in Gush Etzion, and lots of trauma all around. Buses blowing up, terrorists shooting, people felt that their lives were in threat and danger. And as part of my fellowship program, I had to do a personal project, and the project that I decided to work on was how communities, and specifically how educational communities, cope with exposure to long-term trauma and stress. And what I found out is that the school system and the government agencies were really well poised to deal with crisis, the immediate after effects of a traumatic event, of a terrorist attack or a bus bombing. In the day or two before, in the day or two of the aftermath of the bombings, everybody was around. Everybody was there to help, and then everybody disappeared, and whatever was happening really was just brushed under the carpet. People had no idea how to continue talking about what had happened, how to incorporate these great losses into their lives, what to do, how to handle their high levels of anxiety and stress. And so the program I set out to build as part of my personal project at the Mandel School for Educational Leadership was how to help normal populations of people deal with high levels of stress and trauma. I was fortunate at that point to meet Dr. Naomi Baum, who is the director of the Israel Center for the Treatment of Psychotrauma, where I have been working and fortunate enough to develop the Resilience Unit within the Israel Center. I've been working here for the last 8 years. And Danny was very eager and willing to bring in this project as an answer to a need that he had felt, because he had begun to go out and work with teachers in schools. He had been asked to work with some teachers in a couple of schools in Jerusalem. Danny is a clinical psychologist, and he really felt that he was not well enough prepared at the time to understand the educational system and to deal with what was going on, and was very pleased and eager to bring in somebody with an educational background to work on this.
Can you speak a little bit about the work that you've done in the wake of Hurricane Katrina and some of the projects that you're involved with today?
So what we started doing is we developed the what we called at the time the National School Resilience Project. And we developed a workshop that has been the heart of our work ever since. At the time we called it Building Personal and Professional Resilience. Now we call it the Building Resilience Intervention, the BRI. But the essence of that is that before you develop tools to help you as a professional, whether it be as a teacher in the classroom with your students, as a parent with your own young children at home, as a policeman doing the work that you need to do, first you need to listen to yourself, to look and see how you are doing, how you are coping, what's helping you, what's hindering you, to understand how stress is impacting on your life, to understand how stress and trauma can affect you and the people around you. And then once you've done that, you can learn new tools and incorporate these tools in your professional work and in your personal life. So we have, as I said, we initiated this project during the times of the Intifada here in Jerusalem, but then we were able to carry this program to all different parts of Israel, working with diverse populations, working with children of all ages, with the adults that work with children of all ages, 0 on up, and working, we've taken this program to a variety of professional populations, professional populations that are highly exposed to trauma. So we've worked with police and we've worked with firefighters and paramedics. But you asked specifically about what we've done in Hurricane Katrina, and we were asked by the Israel Trauma Coalition and the United Jewish Communities in the United States to come in and take our expertise to the Gulf Coast after the ravages of Hurricane Katrina. And one of the first questions we asked ourselves is, how is the work we are doing relevant to the people of the Gulf Coast? And with a lot of humility, we came to Biloxi, Mississippi, met with the people and talked with them and said, listen, we're going to try out some of the things we've learned that work with populations exposed to terrorism and to war. And let's see whether this speaks to you, whether this meets needs that you have, whether things need to be changed or adapted. And what we were very surprised to find is that our BRI, our Building Resilience Intervention, was really a wonderful fit, taking the teachers, meeting the teachers who had gone through Katrina, very often losing their entire homes and communities, and saying to them, wait a minute, how are you doing? Before we talk with you about how you can help your students, how are you doing? And the teachers would look at each other and would look at us and say, and this is a year after Katrina, they would say, nobody ever asked us that. This is the first time I'm stopping to check in with myself to see how I'm doing. And it was remarkable what this stopping for a few moments or a few hours within a small group setting with other teachers and saying, wait, what's going on with me? How powerful that was to them. And then working with them on what helped them cope and taking what they were learning in this workshop out into their classrooms, helping children talk about their experiences, focusing with children on what resources they had for coping and what kind of meaning they could make from these difficult experiences was really a perfect fit. Certainly the words changed. We had to change words from suicide bomber, bus bombing, roadside shootings to things like wind damage and insurance. That's what they call it in Mississippi, insurance. Gale force winds, different words. There were different words and different concepts, but the basic human responses were very, very similar.